yourself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and delighted to be joined by a full panel tonight. Good evening to Mitch, George, Steve, Stu, Kevin, Alwaleed, and Steve, as we look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And going to start with something a bit different tonight. Going to start with safe standing. Obviously, a survey has been sent out to Newcastle United season ticket holders. Steve's just about to stand up there. Stay seated. You're next to. I know you're next to the former judge, mate, but stay seated. Yeah. What's your thoughts on safe standing, Mitch? I mean, for me, I think I think it's a great idea in principle. I've taken part in safe standing at various grounds when I've been to Liverpool. I think it works really well there, for example. And I wouldn't be troubled with having it at Newcastle. I think, a certain area, certain people will want to go there, and, let them do it, I say, especially if the stadium's going to get increased. But just interested to know what the panel's thought is on safe standing. Obviously, we had the Hillsborough disaster, which is the reason that we went to all-seater stadiums. The Taylor report, the Justice Taylor report, etc. changed football stadiums for the better, I think, but changed them for all times. What's your take on this, Mitch?
If I stand up, everybody think I've got my bloody budgie smugglers on again.
Yeah.
Great idea in principle, and it has been for a long time. And you, I, and Steve, even before I came out here, we're looking at different ways of dealing with it and looking at it. It works wonderfully well in some grounds. It works wonderfully well in parts of Europe. I'm not convinced by the one-to-one system that the want to settle on. I think the 3-for-2 system, was it 3-for-2, Steve, that we looked at?
I think so, yeah. It was.
I think that was a far better concept. The real seating for that was far better, in my opinion, and also would allow capacity to increase, whereas the current doesn't allow capacity to increase, even though people think it might. It's effectively 1-for-1. I think there seems to be a clamour for it within my fan base. Those who tried it at Wembley, I've had mixed feedback from mates who were in there. I tried to get in there and I went off half-cocked in desperation to secure my ticket and clicked in the wrong bloody area. And then once it was in my basket, I thought, no, I'm not going back. That's in my basket, take it. So I didn't get a chance to try it myself. Would I want to do that myself now? Occasionally, I think so still. Occasionally, I think I'd still want to do it. It would allow certain people to come back together with their mates who've been disparate for a long time. And I think that would help atmosphere. If we've got an area that would effectively become an atmosphere generator at times when you get those lulls in the crowd, which seem to have happened more often since the introduction of all-seater stadia, although how much of that correlates with us also being shite for most of that time as well, I'm not sure. But it's something I think it's going to happen. I think that, again, it's something the club have to do carefully and in a considered way, because it's going to involve moving people. It's going to involve asking people to move or even telling people to move. And we've already seen that kind of probably doesn't go down well on occasion. So it's got to be done sensitively. So hopefully the start of the talks with the club and communication with the fan base will be relevant, and also with those season ticket holders who are in the area that they decide is going to be designated as safe standing. It isn't just a case of waving a magic wand and saying, right, that's it, it's done. It needs a little bit of compassion and it needs a little bit of thought. After the way they've handled the final ticketing, I think they've got a lot of catch up to do and a goodwill to find with a lot of season ticket holders on that. But generally, yes, I think a good thing. And it's definitely delivering something that there seems to be a desire for within the fan base.
Okay, George, not something that you would want to do, I don't think, but what's your views in general about safe standing for
in
supporters
general,
who want to do
well, at the moment, it's not something I'd want to do because I physically couldn't do it now. My knees just wouldn't stand it, wouldn't tolerate it. But that's not to say that for many, many years I loved the Gallagher corner. I stood like everybody else at the Gallagher corner and got pushed from pillar to post. And it was part of going to the game, wasn't it? With your friends and your family and just enjoying the closeness of that took place then, except occasionally somebody would pee in your pocket if you weren't careful. But other than that, I sort of enjoy that as much as anybody. But now, having got used to the notion of safe seating, proper seating, and all the rest of it, and it's how I like to go to the match now, and I feel quite happy with the people that I sit with, and it is a new kind of friendships and closeness that's come around. I mean, when I get the chance to go back again, of course, I look very forward to sitting next to Steve, and it's part of the game. And that's great. I mean, mentioning the Hillsborough disaster, it brings quite big memories for me because two of the committee that made the recommendations I knew personally. Judge Peter Taylor was a friend of mine, and Professor Monda was a professor of mechanical engineering in the university and was on the committee that gave me my first senior promotion in the university. So knowing those people as I do was quite nice to have that insight into what they were thinking. Whether they would think the same today or not, I don't know. You see, that I suspect that somebody said to them there was a possibility of safe standing. I think they might have come out with different conclusions. But if there's a need for it, I think the club's duty bound to try and provide those supporters that would like to do it. They're duty bound to supply an area where it can happen. And so I'm not against them doing that. I think that's great. But what I would want to see is, as Neil's just said, more eloquently than I can, that I'd want to see would be able to get as many people involved in standing as we possibly can. In other words, increase the capacity. If it's 1-to-1, I begin to wonder why bother. Why go out to all that trouble of putting all that ironmongery in when the likelihood is you'll have to leave all the seating where it is anyway. So but I think the club does have a duty to investigate, and if there is a demand, a big enough demand, they also have a duty to try and provide that opportunity for people to do it. I haven't used safe standing at all. I've seen it in other grounds, but I've never been involved in it. So yes, it's right that it should be there, but no, it wouldn't suit me at the moment.
Okay, don't forget you can ask George halfway through the program. Get your questions in. I'll highlight them and come back to them after the ads. Steve, safe standing. It was 9 bar where we did the demonstration with the Football Supporters Association, wasn't it? Oh, you're on mute, Steve. You're on mute.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, John Dark, who lived in Germany and brought a system over to show us exactly how it would work with a retractable seat with a pin in that allowed the club to lock the seat down or lock the seat up, depending on the type of game you were playing, to show that you could have a situation where it would, if you qualified for Europe, where it was UEFA rule that you had to sit, then there was a seat for you. His system also was I believe 3-to-1, where for every one seat you could have 3 people standing in that particular area for a standing game. It was very professional. It was well done. As I say, it was based on the system used in Germany. It was quite interesting, Steve, if I remember rightly, because when we did the demonstration, there was various fan groups who didn't want to come along, didn't want to associate with it, didn't want anything to do with it at a particular time, who no doubt are now shouting from the rooftops that it's the best thing since sliced bread. But that's probably for another day and another afternoon. But no, I mean, if the demand's there and the legislation allows it, it's not going to be the panacea that everybody thinks it's going to be. there's the system that we look, for example, and I remember a lot of people saying that if that system had been incorporated, it couldn't have been in the Gallagher end because the Gallagher end structurally wasn't able to have the capacity increased by 2/3. So the structural engineers had a bit of a battle on there, or would have. But if you're going to redevelop a ground off, you're going to build new areas, then there's a lot of possibilities. I think Newcastle United probably need to look at what they're going to do on the redevelopment and then incorporate some sort of safe standard, because, as George rightly said, the people will be moved. People will be unhappy. We'll have a Save Our Seats campaign on the horizon if they don't do it properly, because people will be moved from where they've been sitting possibly for the last 20, 25 years. And suddenly find they're uprooted because certain members want to stand. What I would say about standing, at the moment when you've got a seating area, and I experienced at Wembley, when someone stands in front of you, you have to stand up, whether you want to or not. And when you have someone who's not prepared to sit down, it then causes trouble in the ground. It depends on how vociferous the stewarding is. There was none of that. They didn't want to know. The stewards ran for a mile. In fact, the level of stewarding at Wembley was atrocious. The guy in front of me insisted he was going to stand because the guy in front of him was standing. At one point, I stood myself. Then I wanted to sit down, and I ended up sitting in the aisle for a period of time. Nobody shifted us. I sat on the step on the aisle so I could see what was going down that left-hand side of the pitch at that particular time, just because this character was standing in front of us. By the second half, he sat down most of the second part of the second half because I think he got bored with the argument. But no, it's going to be one of those things. I wonder whether it'll also come with a reduced price, whether there'll be that, whether you'll still be paying the same price as you would if you had a seat. These are all the questions that the club's going to have to answer at some particular time. They're also going to have to come out at some point in time and say where they would put it. Now, and also, this isn't new to the club, by the way, because this was on the agenda with the fans forum since about 2014. When, in fact, it was earlier when we invited the club and club representatives came to look at the safe standing that you've just spoken about, Steve, in 9 Bar on Stowell Street that we give the demo for. Let's see what happens. I believe the club are meeting with fan representatives or a selection of fans to discuss this. I don't know who it is that will be talking to them, but it'll be interesting to hear what the outcome, whether they've got a cross-section of ages, individuals, sexes, whatever. We'll have to wait and see. But the club needs to start speaking about it, and they need to be speaking about it in the public domain, not behind some closed door.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, they certainly seem to have taken on board the suggestion that I'd made on social media, which is to use the membership and season ticket holders, certainly to communicate with. I've seemed to have been inundated with emails personally. I did get a nice email from Sarah Metcalf just to say that, sadly I hadn't been successful in the ballot for going along to this, but any points I wanted to raise, feel free to put them in, which I thought was, that was good. Very nice of her to do that. So I have replied. So I think we're going to set up a meeting and go and see Sarah ourselves, which should be good. Looking forward to seeing one of my somebody who's doing the job that I was doing 20 odd years ago. Should be interesting. Stu, safe standing.
I was waiting for Steve to say selection there, but he didn't. Regarding the meeting this evening. Anyway, I'm with George with his opinion. If it's 1 for 1, it doesn't make sense. What is the point? It's just going to incur more cost. And then who would actually pay the same money for us to stand as you would to sit? So it doesn't make it financially viable for the club either. I just think, to me, safe policing, or had there been safer policing in the 80s, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation now. Now, Australia has proved to be good. Atmosphere-wise, if I use Wembley as an example, where me and the Heat where our section was, we stood the full game. And Mitch will vouch for that because he was a section above us on the front row. to the point where he could have actually come and joined us. And the 2 seats that we had, the 3 of us could have stood there. Now, the size might have been a bit cosy, but it would have created a better atmosphere. You know, and we've all stood in tighter conditions in the past, but that's not to say I'm not trying to hark on the halcyon days, because the Taylor report was done for a reason, and a tragic reason, you know, but it seems to me that people just want to tinker with things just for the sake of tinkering with them. And if it doesn't increase the capacity, then it makes absolutely no sense to me. If they're doing it, not even 3 for 2, if it was 4 for 3, like 4 standing for 3, and they reduced the price slightly, and that would create a better atmosphere, and this is a section of the ground they're going to do it in, great. But the safe standing has to be exactly that, safe, not like the low barriers where I've seen them at Parkhead. They're not safe at all. If anything, they're more dangerous. I've seen them in European grounds as well. They can actually be more dangerous. You know, you just need a little shove it, and it breaks.
The top.
Yeah, it creates a fall rather than breaks a fall. Or rather than where we are now with the seats, you've just put your hand on the back of someone in front of you, but you don't get that surge from the back as you would with people standing anyway. So to me, it's a contradiction. If you're going to create safe standing, make sure it increases the capacity, because whether we like it or not, it's the finance that's running football. And you can't see many clubs say, okay, we'll take out 20,000 seats, reduce the price by half because you're standing, and just put 20,000 standing people in there. You know, so there has to be some tweaks, but sensible and safe tweaks, where you can say, right, okay, if you're taking 15,000 seats out, you can have 20,000 people standing there. So it might generate the same income, but it will create a better atmosphere. To me, that's the solution. But I don't see the benefit of 1 for 1. I really don't.
Just leave it as seating only, says Dave. Kevin, what's your views on all-seater stadia? Obviously, you live in America, so it's a bit different out there, I guess. The bigger stadiums, etc. Did they have safe standing out there?
They don't, but they have. I'll go with Mercedes-Benz, which was what, 80 or 90,000. So behind one of the goals is called the supporters group, which is 17s, and it's just seats, but they stand anyway, and they create the atmosphere. They've got the drums, and which is all sectioned out and things like that. So it's slightly different over here, but for the most part, everybody sits down. Give or take where you're sitting, just depends. I mean, you've got things before the game. If you stand up, you're getting kicked out. If you do this, you get kicked out. There's all these prerequisites, but you might as well just shut up and not sit out of the game. You know what I mean? So it's very heavily policed pre-game when you're here. But we do create an atmosphere here in Atlanta United at Mercedes-Benz. But for me, I'm for it. It's just like a lot of the lads have said, it's where's it going to be implemented? How is it going to be implemented? And again, you know, where I was a kid sitting in the Milburn paddock back in the day, sitting on the old concrete pillars, and just with my dad holding on to us, you know. But I still got to see the game because I was young and whatever, and I wanted to see the game. But again, it's if people are standing in front of you, okay, can we just create a minimal amount in a certain part of the stadium? I don't know, Strawberry Corner, the back end of that, or just in that little corner, and have that safe standing. But again, for me, it has to be safe. Again, you can't have a 2-foot rail going nuts when we score, and then you're just going to get a bigger problem moving forward. So again, it's reaching out to the right people, knowing how it's supposed to be done, the European leagues or whoever they need to get into, because every stadium is different. Every stadium is built differently. So there's I'm for it. But again, it's just the ratio of space to fans, how's that going to work, financial implications, how it's going to, for seats to be removed for this barrier to be put into place, all that sort of stuff. So it's got to be with a strong consideration of how it's going to be done. It's got to be done correctly if it's going to be done at all.
Lots of points coming in. James Moore says, I don't have a dog in the fight, but it would be nice to see more accessible seats. Thinks it's hard getting a seat try fighting for a few seats, and persistent standing is perceived to present a direct risk to safety by increasing the likelihood of conflict between spectators, such as those who have their sightline blocked by those who stand. And Julie says, I'm not especially short nor tall, but I can guarantee you that if I get a 6 foot plus person in front, and I don't think I'd enjoy my experience. Tim Cairns says seating is preferable. Back in the day, standing in front of the concrete barriers. We could sit on pillars till the match started, and then someone would tell you to get off. You were blocking the view. Ended up with a face squashed against the fence, says Barry. Happy memories there, Barry. Steve, it's an ongoing chat about safe standing, mate. I mean, what Stu says about 1-for-1 doesn't really make sense. I guess if it increases the stadium, it's probably a good thing. And how does it affect the disabled branch of our supporters?
Well, it's not bad now, because what you do get as far as standing up is people standing up in the seated areas, which is I guess unsafe standing, and that has been the problem in over the years in certain parts of the ground. I'm not quite sure if it still is behind the goals, but being most of like where I am in the front of these stand, no problem at all. The issue is people going in front of you while the game's going on and standing there before the game, but that's not the problem. And then obviously the higher places in level 7, they're like they were at Wembley, that you're well above anybody standing. I think as far as talking generally, I used to stand until the 90s. Even though I always walked with sticks, I walked into the ground. I often took my chair up and walked into the ground, and I liked standing. We've got to remember that, and I think Brian Park made the comment before that was stood for many years, probably 80 years. It was Taylor Report was after late 80s when the Hillsborough disaster happened, and you've also got to remember that Hillsborough didn't happen due to the standing. It was mismanagement of the access and also the barriers. Had the barriers not been there around the pitch, you go back to the 1923 Cup final when everybody spilled on the. And that used to happen at St James. I can remember, if an area got a bit pushing, that used to happen maybe in the Gallagher. You spilled onto the cinder track, if not onto the pitch, and you managed the situation. The problem was at Hillsborough that you had mismanagement of people going to the wrong sections, and there was no escape, and that's where the crushing started. But I think we did stand a lot. The issue with having it sort of standing where you currently sit, which is effectively putting lifting the seat up and holding it, you are trapped in that position. And I think one of the points made earlier on, if you've got somebody tall in front of you, you're no better off. The way I think it could be done is having sort of pens. If you remember, the old Wembley used to have small sections of, I don't know how many people could hold in each section, maybe 50 or 100 or whatever. But it reduced the chance of you having to move around, but you could take a position in that pen area where you were reasonably comfortable. You weren't crushed because you didn't have other sections behind you pushing onto you, which has happened at many grounds. And you always used to see the swaying around that used to go, particularly in the Gallagher end, when it was the high 50s, thousands. You used to see the crowd swaying and things. It was a good sight to see, I think, and probably if you were in it, you either enjoyed it or you didn't. But I would like to see that rather than just having this sort of 1-for-1 and basically stand where you sit, just to make it a safe way of standing. And people are standing now. I was at Man City on Saturday, and most of the crowd were standing up then in the seated area. So we've actually got unsafe standing at the moment in the seated areas. So improve on that. But that's not the objective. Is people want to stand in a comfortable way, and I would go for pens, small pens where you could get I don't know what the number is. That's part of the research that goes on. Obviously, that's a new approach, because I don't think we're going to reinvent the wheel up here. We'll probably copy off the sort of standing that's been done in Germany, other clubs, and some places in this country so far. I noticed there were a couple of areas at Man City where there was safe standing, but I think they should have it. And obviously, the first phase that the club have got to do is as you said, Steve, is use the membership, use the season ticket database, and get a poll on people and see who wants to do it. If there's only a handful who want to do it, then you don't bother. But I think quite a lot would.
Tom Dixon's brought up the dreaded relocation word. Oh my God, we're going back to it. It's another.
You can do that. You can do that. You can do that
Yes.
sensibly if you
We can.
communicate.
Because one sec, my Wi-Fi keeps going off, and I thought I'd missed a question when I heard Steve Wilkinson talking
No,
about
we can hear you.
holding position in the pen area. I thought he was giving advice to Callum Wilson.
I've made I'm prepared for that, having listened to all the other programs. The pen area.
So, Al-Walid, what's your thoughts on safe standing? Do you have safe standing at your grounds in Saudi?
Actually, we don't have, but fans stand anyway. But usually, who stands are the official supporter with high speakers and some drums. But lately, I believe they prevent the high speakers. So we see as usual always the fans when there is a great attack or close to scoring a goal, everybody's standing anyway. So so I believe this is it's good option for some fans. It will be good option for some fans, especially who are maybe young and loud, and some people can't control themselves. They don't mind standing. I think this is appropriate for them, and it's good for some fans.
Would you stand, Al-Walid?
Sometimes yes, in the finals. In the finals, I always stand in important games.
Okay, good stuff. Rails used to be a minimum height of 800 millimeters with a preferred height of 900 millimeters. There should all be a minimum clearway of 305 millimeters between the railing and seat, with the preferred clearway being 400 millimeters. You clearly got that from somewhere. Barry Hogan, my concern with this, he says, George, my mate got a soggy pocket when we were standing, gutted.
Yeah.
And he had his
Yeah.
half-time pie in it. What did he have his pie in his pocket for God's sake?
Yeah. How weird, man. People used to do all sorts of funny things, man, Steve.
Yeah, I suppose so. Wouldn't have been the City fans standing place was half empty. Yes, you're right, Jude.
There's a mutual mate of mine and Johnny Allen's who once went to a match in his brand new long-tail Parker, and somebody used the deep pocket on his right-hand side at half-time to relieve themselves, and he got a bit of a shock when he put his hand in his pocket.
Oh, dear me, how. Why not have a 10,000 standing area that won't be mismanaged, says Doug. I don't think they'll do that, mate. I've got to be perfectly honest. Did they have safe standing in the Champions League and Europa League? At certain grounds they do, Tom. If safe standing makes them sing the Bladen races at the correct pace, I'm all for it. Not singing at all, Mark.
I don't think there's any standing in the UEFA game. So any Champions League, Europa or Conference,
I stand corrected.
It's seating only. That's why the seat that was designed is a seat that gets locked into place when you're standing. But for a Champions League game or a European game, the seat gets dropped so that you can and locked into place so you're back sitting down. That's the ruling with UEFA at the moment.
That's why the German safe standing stuff was designed the way it was, to accommodate their safe standing for league games, but then allow, say, Borussia Dortmund to go and do Champions League games with the seats dropped down.
Right, and everyone has a barrier in front of them, and the barrier is at chest height, and that's to stop you from going over the top into the next set.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith says, guys, the bottom line is cost. If it's the same price as a seat, then why would you stand? And like it's been mentioned, it would need to be a 3-to-1 ratio, or it's not cost effective. David Cook says, Barry, I remember a warm, wet sensation down the back of my legs in a Texaco Cup match against Hearts. No fan segregation. And just finishing off this half of the show, Gary Milligan gives us some breaking news. He says the company who installed the seats at the Stadium of Light are to be taken to court because the seats are facing the pitch.
I commented. I did an access audit. I did an access audit in 2000 of the. We did the whole of all the grounds in the country, the NADS organisation as it was, the national group, and I did the Stadium of Light, and that was my comment: is the seats were facing the wrong direction.
Okay, time for the ads.
Did you see the fit though?
Don't forget to ask George after the break.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go, waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from mrvickies.co.uk or by calling 01768 210102. Welcome aboard to Fruy Vita Getaways. You can email them at fruivitagetaways@gmail.com. Call or text them 0792 842 7895. Please join and share their Facebook group as well at Fruy Vita Getaways. Book your holidays or short breaks in the UK or around the world with them. Let them find your happy place. ABTA and ATOL registered. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. And the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com, where you can buy lots of t-shirts and merchandise. If you want to subscribe to the show, hit the subscribe button underneath this video today. It is free to do so. Hit the thumb up to like the video. It's good for the algorithm. And click share to share to your other social media. If you do subscribe, we do send you a free car sticker. To get that, email john@nufcmatters.com and he'll post you one out. If you want to join the NUFC Matters cult, then put your smartphone over this QR code now and it will take you straight there. Alternatively, go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and you can join for a one-off payment of £25. You'll receive a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw. You can also join via YouTube, and if you click join beneath the video, you will see a variety of prices and how you can support the channel. You can alternatively make a donation with a super chat in the chat tonight. Just click the $sign. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast providers. We also help the food bank on this show. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you'll find the matchday bucket, and you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. As always, we've got a whole host of events coming up throughout the year. An evening with Nobby Solano takes place on Saturday, the 25th of March at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets £15. Book now at nufcmatters.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley at Leamington Labour Club. Tickets are £20. 31st of March. And you can get them direct from the venue. An evening with Nobby Solano, Good Friday, the 7th of April at 4 p.m. Tickets are a tenner and available behind the bar at Felling Cricket Club in Gateshead. An evening with Supermac, hosted by Gibbo at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe, Tuesday the 11th of April. And tickets direct from the venue. This is a limited ticket event, only 35 tickets available, so book soon. And an evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday the 20th of April. Tickets are £15. Book now at nufcmatters.com. In June, Rob Lee will be at Louis Liquor Store in Newcastle, and you can get tickets direct from the venue. And an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark, John Beresford takes place the following evening, Friday the 2nd of June at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. This is in aid of the Heel and Toe charity, and tickets are available from their website, www.heelandtoe.org.uk/events. And if you're a boxing fan, the Night of Champions comes to Gateshead at the Fed. Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Nigel Benn, and Joe Calzaghe are part of the UK tour, and you can get your tickets from www.goldstarpromotions.co.uk.
Okay, time for that part of the show on a Wednesday night where you ask George. Can you please ask George what his favourite TV programme and favourite comedian is, says Gary Milligan.
Oh, favourite comedians are Morecambe and Wise, and favourite TV show is an American one, I'm afraid, and it's Frasier.
You don't have to be afraid, George. It's your opinion.
Well, not everybody likes American humour, but Frasier I do particularly like.
Well, I tell you what, we've seen plenty of American humour in the White House. Blue Rhythm Boy asked George, what did he make of the Borough banner last weekend, and do you consider them a local derby?
Well, because of my history, the Borough game was as much a derby as the Sunderland game was, I've got to say. And it was it was something we look forward to. It just happens to be, as I probably said on here before, that I had family that lived in Billingham, and some of them were Borough supporters. So it was a good excuse to get with the family again and do all sorts of other things as well.
I would look forward to the Borough game. It included a trip to the Thai massage parlour. Jesus.
Yes, well, he used to tell his wife he was going to the match with us, and he used to go to a Thai massage parlour and have a good afternoon there. So yeah, the Borough. I personally, I regard a Borough game as a derby game.
What did you make of the banner? Did you see the banner last week?
Yes. Well, if that's what they really think, that's up to them. I mean, I'm all for people having their own slant on things, and if that's what they think, well, that's what they think.
All entitled to an opinion.
Absolutely.
Mark Bayer says, ask George.
Going to the massage parlour instead of the match brings a whole new meaning to the word 3 pots in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We'll stop there. Mark Bayer says, ask George. It bugs me creeping into the game is players faking head injuries to take the pressure off the defence. If replays show the player wasn't struck on the head, should there be something done about this, is what Mark basically wanted to know.
Well, the ability to do that is there now with VAR and other things. If somebody's feeling an injury, that's diving, isn't it? It's the same as diving, so they could easily be booked for that. However, the other side of that is I'm absolutely delighted that we have a very sensible, or we're getting towards, because we're not always using it, like Newcastle didn't use it at Wembley, a very sensible approach to concussion now, and long overdue in my view. But if they can show quite clearly by VAR or any other ways that somebody didn't really get hit on the head, then that's diving for me.
Okay, question for George. Whatever happened to the peanut man? As a kid in the Leazes End at the time, no matter where you were, you always got your peanuts.
Tanner about.
Yeah, that's right. He would have made a good baseball pitcher because he always hit the target. I don't know what happened to him, but my guess is because people can buy their peanuts elsewhere now. In fact, I'm not even sure if you can. The other side of the peanut man brought home very starkly to me, and I suspect to Neil, the first time we went to Barcelona when a guy selling all sorts of things, he didn't have to throw it to you because there was enough room in front of you for him to walk in front of you. And I thought, well, this is the future. It's fantastic. Took a lot more years to get it at home at St James's, but the peanuts are Ali's basket, and you just walk in front of you and give you sweets or whatever it was you wanted. But I don't know what happened to him, but they must have practiced throwing because they very rarely did they miss you.
Okay. Did players surround the referee in your day like they do now? Yes or no, George?
No, not in the same way. In fact, they wouldn't dare. I mean, that Fernandez actually touched the linesman the other night at Liverpool. Right. In my day, that would have been off. Yeah. Just touching the linesman. So now the way the big team, particularly Manchester United, are one of the worst, surround referees and harangue them. No, that would have, there'd been 2 or 3 people sent off of that happened in my day.
We're getting a wider range of questions here. What's his favourite national anthem? Mine is The Flower of Scotland. Stu McPenman will agree.
Well, I like The Flower of Scotland, but if you're asking us which one stirs me as much as any other, it has to be the French national anthem. The Marseillaise is a very stirring song, and even when I sit and listen to it here, and I'm not got French, it still makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and end, and that really does stir me.
We'll be here all night if I ask you all of them. Give us your favourite film, George, of all time, please.
It's come on, detective one.
The Pink Panther.
Yes, it is. That's one of the Pink Panther ones. Yes,
Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah,
Uh,
Cluso.
yeah.
That's the name I couldn't remember. Yeah,
Spot on. Great stuff. And last question from Tom. Barry, I can't ask yours because it'll take the whole show over. Question for George. How many trophies would you like to see in Newcastle's trophy cabinet?
More than one.
How many? That's
Yes.
easy. As many as we can get.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. If we're in it to win it, let's go for it. Is my
Yeah.
attitude. And that I hope that's the attitude that they've got at St James's Park.
It's a good one to have. It's a good one to
Yeah,
have.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Barry, Mitch asks you a question. He says FA was set to reject Premier League proposals to relax visa procedures, but the FA Chief Executive Mark Bullingham has since clarified his organisation is willing to be flexible. Mitch, what does this mean to us?
That's a good question. You never really know what's coming with administration in football because you never really know who's driving the agenda, and that's the problem. Is where's the agenda being driven from? We've got a problem with visas simply because of Brexit, and we could go one of two ways. We could actually help football in the Premier League by being more relaxed than, say, the European visa system is. We could turn around and say, right, the exemption for professional sport, and just make it a damn free-for-all. And so you could say to our clubs, go and cherry-pick the best in the world. And if they satisfy this criteria, that this age, they've got so many caps at under 21 or international level, and have a field day and fill your boots and sign who you like. Because we could. We're in that. It's a fantastic position to be in. If the agenda is being driven by a government who currently are very, very worried about little boats, God knows what will happen. Really. I wouldn't be worried about little boats. It would be bloody squadrons of helicopters I would be worried about. But that's,
I think what you can say, Mitch, is that Bullingham can say whatever he likes. It's the government that drives the agenda, not the FA.
Yeah. If the government wanted to help football in this country, like it needs any more help, but if they really did, they could really create an absolute free-for-all, create a visa system for our clubs to allow us to sign the best young players from around the world and the very best players from around the world who don't tick the boxes because they don't have enough international caps or they weren't born on a Wednesday when their father was looking in a northerly direction. All these sort of weird things that come up sometimes about how somebody suddenly fits a visa criteria and then doesn't the next. They could genuinely make the Premier League so much more than just the place to go if they wanted to. Who knows? They
could also help grassroots football to make the quality and standard in this country be lifted.
Yes.
At the moment, that's something that they're not doing. It's got to be an equal playing field, I think, and it's got to be leveled out, and it's got to be structured, and it's got to be organised, and it's got to be truthful. At the moment, you get a situation like you've got Chelsea, who seem to be able to buy as many foreign players as they want at a certain age, but then they farm them out, and you see what the benefit it gives to Chelsea later on down the line when it comes to financial fair play. When they brought a kid in, he's never played in this country for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but they've got him on the books, and then they sell him. He's been out on loan in a foreign country, and then they sell him for an absolute fortune, possibly to another Premier League club. And they pick them up for nothing, but they sell them for 20, 30, 40 million, and that helps the FFP. So they've been playing the game for an awful long time. So it's going to be very, very difficult to convince other clubs and for the FA to convince other clubs that it's a good idea. But there again, is this a political buy-off for the Premier League that helps with what's happening currently with the setup, with the whole governance of football? I wouldn't trust the FA and the Premier League one iota, and I suspect the Premier League are now positioning themselves to be that person who comes in to govern football again, or try to. The football that they threw out the window 30 years ago when they brought the Premier League in the first place.
Okay. Want to ask the rest of the panel. We'll start with you, Mitch, and go to your dad anyway. But just about Bruno, he won the Northeast Football Writers Player of the Year award. How important has Bruno been to Newcastle United since he arrived at St James's Park?
It's not just about his football; it's about the energy he brings off the pitch.
Yeah.
That smile he's got on his face there that you never seem to see off it, unless he's missed a penalty or feel like he's let his mates down. The only time he looked pissed off was after he'd missed that bloody penalty in the shootout, and that they were struggling to make him look happy in the dressing room afterwards. You know, I think that's the importance on a global stage to have somebody in the Brazil squad, somebody who's now a fixture in the Brazil squad, not necessarily in the starting 11, but certainly in the squad, who people go, oh, he's the one at Newcastle, isn't he? Keeping him around, you know, we're in a really interesting position. I've seen a lot of stress and angst today about losing players in the summer. We're in this wonderful position from an FFP perspective. If somebody wants to come and purchase a Bruno or a Botman, we're going to take their eyeballs and we're going to go back for the sockets. And so, from an FFP perspective, you can look to build a squad where you could replace one player with three. That's it, because that's the Brighton model. Funnily enough, that's what they're being praised for doing constantly. And who did that? And who set that up? Oh, Ashworth. That said, if we want to be serious players at the top table of European football, Bruno is one of those key fixtures who must be in our squad and must be in our team to attract the better players that are going to take us to that next level. And so, very few situations in life end up with win-win. And it's one that could go either way. But what I love about Bruno is the feedback from him on social media and the way he speaks to the public, either via his own social media or via the press. When he says he's happy to be here and this is his home, he's not blowing smoke up our arses. That's real. And I think that's the energy that we've got in this squad. That we've got Bruno, we've got Trippier, we've got people who, and I'm a great believer in like attracts like. So the like-minded players and the like-minded people who then start to bring similar to the table. That's the energy that he can bring here. We could see ourselves after this next summer window with players involved in our squad we couldn't even have dreamed about, simply because he's around. And they're looking at him and going, well, he's dead set there and he's dead happy there. I want a piece of that. And that's what I think is the important thing for me with this squad.
George, thoughts on Bruno?
Oh, breath of fresh air. Really talented player who, for me, was a big surprise because I knew absolutely nothing about him. And wow, everything he does reeks of class, both on and off the field. Neil's right. His countenance, his very happy outlook on life seems to filter through to others. The other impressive thing for me was within less than 2 months of him being here, you could see his English had proved 100%. You could see that was somebody that was here to be part of everything, and because he stuttered quite a bit when he first came, but as I say, within a couple of months, his English had improved. You could see that, and you thought, well, there's somebody that's working hard to be part of this this team, this culture, this city, and he's made it even more so in the last year. And I look at what's been said in social media at the moment about Real Madrid want him in the summer. Well, I think that's great as well, because all Newcastle United will do is slap 100 million release clause on him and let them have a go, let them fight it out amongst themselves. But I just think Bruno's so happy to be here, he won't go anywhere. And as Neil says, that's got to have a good effect on others coming to the club. The other thing I noticed is talking about how they speak. Joe Linton's English seems to have improved 100% since Bruno came as well, in my view, in my opinion. And I think that's because he saw what's been going on with Bruno, and he wants to be part of it. So, no, breath of fresh air. Everything he does is exudes class. And the pictures I see and hear from local people when their kids go to the training ground and ask for pictures, he never fails to stop. Never fails to stop. So I'm told he's signing footballs for the kids. He's signing strips. Absolutely a great addition to Newcastle United, and we were very, very lucky to get that young man for the price that we did. And I just think it's a compliment that people like Real Madrid want to let the world know that they're interested. I mean, the bits of social media that are making me upset at the moment are the idiots that are suggesting that we're interested in Harry Maguire. How bloody stupid are those people? I mean, really, truly. So Bruno, number one for me.
Steve, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
is how George describes him.
Yeah, has this ability to make space when he's got the ball. That's what I like about him. Has this ability to be able to turn left or right. He brings other players in, but he drops that shoulder. He's got all the tricks, but he does it with ease. Great engine on him. Love to watch him. Love the way he moves around the football pitch, and his attitude, his smile, his attitude. Actually, I know he'll be disappointed, but I'm delighted he hasn't been selected for the couple friendlies that Brazil have, which actually in Europe, not in Brazil, believe it or not. Brazil are without a manager at the moment, so they've got an interim manager, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Apparently, they're holding out for Ancelotti after he gets a sack from Real Madrid. Good luck with that one. I think it's more likely Real Madrid win the European Cup again or the Champions League again, and Ancelotti stays for another year. But wonderful footballer. Love to watch him. And I want more like him. I want Newcastle United to go out and get more players like him. That's what we're looking for. So, great acquisition.
Al-Walid, your thoughts on Bruno, please, as a player?
Bruno, he's a teamwork player. Help every player on the field, and I still believe we didn't see the best of Bruno yet. I believe if we have, for example, Madison or high skillful player around him with in the midfield, he will be more brilliant, and I'm looking forward to that. It's really as you said, guys, and Dr. Nell as well. He is really a good ambassador of the club and make every player wanted to come to Newcastle. So I'm very happy with him, and I'm very excited to see him play with higher skillful players. And I think we'll see a much better version of Newcastle.
Okay, Stu, your thoughts on Bruno winning that award, the Writers Player of the Year award?
Brilliant. Can I tell a joke first? But when you were asking George about national anthems, it's an old one, so I'll have to be careful how I word it, so I'll change the words around. What do you call someone who's academically challenged? Duh. Yeah? You say that to them. So if it was a couple, what do you say to them? Duh. If it was a nation of them, what do you say?
Oh, dear me.
You're not taking Elliot Slesser's job.
Sorry.
Come back, Elliot.
That's for sure. Right there. Regarding Bruno, he's our poster boy, isn't he? I love the way he's embraced the role that he's got, the position. He understands the responsibility of it, of being a player for Newcastle, the way his family have immersed themselves in the culture. His dad goes to all the games. His wife is happy here. I understand that his child was born here. You know, he's very quickly grasped what it takes to be a success. And I'm off the ilk of the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that boy's worked really, really hard, and he deserves a lot of good luck for us. To me, he epitomises what we want from as a fan base from our players. And the fact it doesn't matter where he's from, all this southern press, unless you're from Newcastle, you're not accepted. He's loved more than anyone that's been born in this city that's played for Newcastle since Shearer. And that's fact. So he is, but he's also pivotal for our future success for many reasons. Firstly, he's class, as in he's a great player. Secondly, if we get rid of him, it'll show that we can be a selling club, and that would put a lot of doubt in other players' minds. You get rid of him, well, what's all this promise that we're going to win this? We're going to, we're the most exciting sporting project on the planet. So it's really, really crucial that we keep Bruno. Thirdly, as Al Walid said, is if we keep him, he will attract better players. And to me, keeping Bruno is like signing someone else, because losing him would be like losing 3, because we probably would lose 3. And unfortunately for us, the 3 that would lose would be our better players, because it would send out totally the wrong message. And fourthly is the same as number 1. He's class. And we should be building a team around this guy and bringing in players off the same standard, if not better. And the fact that you can see he's enjoying his football, it means so much to him. I think the way he connects with the fans, he's obviously from a hard-working background. His dad drove the taxis, hence the number 39 on his shirt, and that was his dad's taxi number. Yeah. He's grateful for and thankful for the position he's in, and he's not likely to spunk it away. He seems to be, he will roll his sleeves up when he needs to, and he'll give us 100%. And what more can we ask for from a player? And the fact that he's so talented is our blessing.
Great stuff. Kev?
Yeah, pretty much Stu stole my thunder with that last comment, but it's top-class player, top-class person, encompassed himself within the region, brought up from humble beginnings in Rio, in the Venezuelas and things like that, where he came from. And look, he's only 25. I just looked up that real quick, and we haven't seen the best of him yet. And to build a team, like Stu said, to build a team around him, potential future captain. Again, if you lose him, you lose 3. I mean, again, build a team around him, give him what he needs, because he's the future of Newcastle United going forward. Yeah. So again, he's unfortunately, I've had the pleasure of meeting him. Hope I meet him one day and just shake his hand and give him a big cuddle. I mean, his dad's even part of off the field stuff. I mean, he just embraced everything what we want as a fan base and what we are as a city, and he exudes that on the field of play, and that's what we love to see.
Steve, last but by no means least.
Yeah, well, I think right from his very first touch, if you remember, he came on, he did a sort of 3-minute cameo in I forget which game it was last season, and he did a back heel, and we fell in love with him instantly. If we hadn't already fallen in love with what we heard was coming, and he's shown on the field that he's a quality player. He demonstrates on the field that he's totally committed and with us. The amount of times you see him geeing the crowd up and like that, but he's also bought into the area, which I think is very important to help attract other players. They did a feature, I think, on one of the games that was on Sky earlier on in the year, and you showed him, and he was just walking along and talking. But it's very clear, and I think we all understand that he's bought into the area. And I think when we get the what I put on the bottom there, Champions League qualification, I would like to hope we'll get that, but it's not the end of the world if we don't. But that will mean that we've got the ability to buy the better players to play with him, but I'm sure that will help him excel. But he'll be key in helping to attract those players, because he's just got to talk to them and say, right, this is the place, this place is going somewhere, come and play with me, and we can make this club the best in the world. And so he's great in the future. I don't think we'll sell him. I don't think he would want to go. I think it's out the frying pan to fire somewhere. If he took a chance and believed that there were riches better anywhere else, he'll get paid everything he wants here in time. It might take a few years, but I'm sure he knows that there's good things ahead, and will want to be part of it, because he's definitely bought into the area.
Great stuff. Great show as always. That hour has come to an end too quickly. Have a look on the channel. I've done a little review of this play. Love it if we beat them. It's on at the Live Theatre the 25th of March. I went to see it last night. A little bit about politics, a little bit about a relationship, and a bit about Newcastle United. What more could you want in a night out? Go to live.org.uk to buy your tickets. Wonderful play written by Rob Ward and directed by Bex Bauscher. And I'm going live again in 5 minutes' time with something you would have probably seen on the news. Charles Salvador, is he fit to be free? Interesting, this one. A lot of people talking about it, a lot of debate. Halfway through his parole hearing at the minute. So I'm going live with a panel in 5 minutes. But for now, thanks to Mitch, George, Steve, Alwaleed, Stu, Kevin, and Steve. Thanks to everybody in the chat, and thanks to the moderators. Take care. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Cheers, lads.
Everybody.